All right. Well, thank you for everybody for coming today. We have a great hour of our webinar. Everyone eats. We get to talk about food and beverage for your community. Very much looking forward to going over all of the things that we do within our communities, running our food and beverage operations for the numerous communities that we have the opportunity to be able to serve. So lots of things to discuss to talk about. And what we're going to be talking about today is really when you look at your clubhouse, you look at your hospitality operations within your homeowners association, you want to make sure that hospitality or the food and beverage operation really is a showcase. It's the centerpiece. It's where all of the fun happens. That's at your community. It's really kind of the central focal point within your HOA. You look at all the various amenities that are there within your HOA. So you may have golf, you may have tennis, you may have fitness, trails, pickleball, tennis balls, tennis courts, all kinds of things, spas that are there, and all of the homeowners that are in there. Maybe there's 30% or 40% that play golf at the golf course, or maybe it's 20%, or maybe there's 30% that use the fitness operation. But when you look at everything, and you look at these large communities, whether it's 3, 4, 5, up to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 homes, there's one thing that they do all have in common, and that is that everyone eats and everyone drinks. So the food and beverage really is the fabric that brings everybody together, brings everybody to the table, and you want to make sure that your food and beverage operation is just outstanding, and it is something that could be proud of to be there within the community itself. So there's lots of things that we are going to talk about, whether it's front of the house, back of the house, how we go about creating our menus, cost controls, different labor plans that are there. What does banquets and events mean to the community itself? And then, ultimately, how does the homeowners wind up using the hospitality service or the clubhouse or the restaurants that are there within the community itself? So who's OneSource? This is kind of a good question that we always start off with. Associate is the world's leader in HOA management. Heads and shoulders above everybody within the competitive set that's out there. They have the greatest technology. They have some of the best community association managers are out there, and they're backed by a world-class organization that's there. So they're the largest, as well as I think they manage close to 16,000 or 17,000 homeowners associations throughout all of North America. So whenever they come into a large HOA which has multiple moving parts, whether it's hospitality, clubs, golf, fitness, or something along those lines, they fold us into their family right there, and we put together a product what's called OneSource. And OneSource management is really where we're taking care of all of the HOA component. We're taking care of all of the homeowners association, the billing, the board of the governance of the property of the HOA, as well as all of the normal HOA management duties that are responsible there. And then when you add into all of these other different amenities that make a homeowners association truly special, meaning they may have a golf course, they may have clubhouse operations where there's a restaurant and bar that's there, maybe there's a fitness operations. So OneSource comes in. OneSource comes in, and we take care of all the HR, the sales, the marketing, the golf ops, the golf maintenance, and we keep the golf courses green and immaculate. But in the same token, we take care of all the restaurants, from the culinary side all the way to the service that's coming out in the front of the house of the restaurant. And if there's weddings that are being hosted at a property, we're the ones that are responsible for that in conjunction with it. So OneSource is a part of Associate that really caters to these HOAs that have numerous amenities that are there. And we have skill sets. We have experts within the industry on both sides, not only from the homeowners association management, but also from the club side of things. Well, my name's Sean Taylor. I actually came up through golf and hospitality, worked at some great places, and very blessed and fortunate that I've worked for some fabulous people as well. And several years back, about 11 years back, we went out on our own. And then about 6 years ago, Associate brought us in underneath their brand there with OneSource. And so we have multiple properties that OneSource is with us, obviously with where Associate and us are all together, and we're managing the HOA and managing the club side of things. And so have been in the business and in the industry for longer than over 25 years, and it's been a great run, and have seen everything that there is to see within this particular business that's there. So let's start things off. Lots of fun, lots of cool things to talk about, especially food is so darn personal. It really is. When you think about food, and you think about, all you have to do is turn on the food channel and you'll see, look at Chopped or any of the different shows that are out there, and they could have the same dish and everybody thinks it's a little bit different. So it is really, really important. So what does Steve Harvey have in common with your community and food and beverage operation? I love Family Feud, and what he always says, top 10 answers are on the board, survey says. And this is really one thing that you have to do. First and foremost, right out of the gates, you have to know who you are. You have to know what your community is. There's many times where we walk onto a property and there's a very big disconnect between what the property thinks that they are, or the community thinks that they are, and then what is being served within the clubhouse itself. And so since there's a disconnect there, there's a dissatisfaction of what the community wants and what the community is actually getting. And so first and foremost, you have to go out into that community, take the surveys, really find out really what's the biggest and most impactful most impactful portion that you are going to impact the community as a whole. There may be pockets of niches of different things, like, oh, we need a great Italian restaurant, or we need a great Greek restaurant, or we need a great fine dining restaurant. But so those are very small. They may be very small market segments within, say, like 1,000 homeowners association. So, but what's the concept going to look like? What does the majority of the homeowners really want for them in their clubhouse and their food and beverage operation? So you have to, right out of the gates, you have to learn and know what they would like to do, whatever it is, if it's a pub style, if it's a more of a fine dining style, and there's things that we'll talk about where you can expand to be able to hit those different niches. But whatever it is, the first thing that you have to make sure that you are going to do is you got to be the best at it. So you want the community to be absolutely raving fans for your food and beverage operation. And it starts with really, once you decide where you want to go and what the community really wants and what's satisfaction to them, then it starts to, okay, let's start to build the team. We have to train the team for our daily execution. There's certain things that we have to that are non-negotiables in regards to bringing on the right professionals that are there. And then the second part is not only just bringing them on, but then the continuous training moving forward so that they can execute on a day-to-day basis. And there are service standards and service mechanics that are there. You have to make sure that the team that you're hiring understands the big picture They understand the why that they're there and how that they're actually going to do it and what they actually do on a day-to-day basis. And so there's lots of little nuances as we go through this, as you'll see within food, that really can make a operation to be profitable, not profitable at all, or not a very good experience on top of that. So these are all the things that as we go through this that we do at our properties, our one source properties, where we have lots of moving parts at these particular, and we have lots of niches, lots of cliques within a community, and these are things that we really hold steadfast whenever we come on property. First and foremost, obviously, first impressions do matter. If somebody will immediately make a decision, make an opinion about you within the first 7 seconds. We drill this into our associates. If they walk into one of the restaurants, and we're talking maybe like a full service, and we'll stay there. We'll stay into the full service world for a little bit, even though it's been hit relatively hard with COVID this past year. But that first impression, granted everybody's wearing masks right now. You have to greet them with a smile. And if you can't greet them with a smile because you got the mask on, you got to smile with your eyes. And you have to, in the end, you really want to be able to develop those relationships with your homeowners. So as they walk in, you're greeting them by name. You may even already know kind of what's their tendencies. Do they like a gin and tonic, beef eater and gin and tonic with a grind of a lemon? Those things are really important, especially in this day and age where the clubs that have hospitality or the properties, the homeowners that have hospitality do have an advantage over the outside hospitality world, because they really they view it as safer. And we'll get into the sanitation side of things, but they view it as safer. And then they view it, they're comfortable. They're comfortable within their community. And these are big things that are right now, they're important, especially as we kind of come out of this pandemic, moving forward. So we will talk about a lot of different things, these setups for successes, whether it's on the service side or whether it's on the sales side of things. But there's certain best practices that we like to do within with our places, and eventually, as we look at these two we look at these two pictures here, and these are two different places where we're managing, and eventually we will have events. And so the top picture that's there is a Mother's Day brunch, and those are Tiffany mimosas that are up there. You have to be kind of creative. This is one thing that we're going to talk about: being creative, making sure that your staff is creative. Those are Tiffany mimosas. There's blue cacao with some champagne with sugar rimmed the glass, and then they put this particular one source property put a bow on it, a silver bow that was on there, and as mothers came in to the buffet, they were either greeted with a Bloody Mary or Tiffany mimosa. So very cute, very kind of out of the box thinking. The one down and below there is as another clubs, and you can see when you look at them, the staff is very happy to be there. They're happy to be servicing the community, servicing our homeowners that are there. These are all first things first. These are all things. So this is prior to the event. And so we have already gone through a huddle. We've gone through the pre checklist for before all of the guests have come through. Made sure that everything that needed to be done prior to the storm, the calm before the storm happened, is ready to roll. Because right in the mix of the fray of service, whether it's a big event or dinner service, those times, those seconds that are here and there, unfortunately, you just don't have those. So you really want to make sure that what you can do prior to service, it's ready. It's all ready to go. Whether it's the salt and peppers, the silverware, the rolled silverware. There's so many things. There's an endless amount of pre-shift work that could be done to get yourself prepared for this prepared for before the service. So, and the big thing is, as we go through that, is like we said earlier, it's the training of the staff, the education of the staff. It's important that your service staff is trained by the executive chef, knowing whether it's the recipes, knowing what ingredients are in each of the dishes. Because if I'm coming there and I'm saying, okay, you know what, and we've seen this where someone may be allergic to like vinegar-based dishes, and you're going through the menu and the server's going through the menu and says, you know, and the guest or the homeowner says, well, I'm allergic to vinegar-based dishes. What do you recommend? That server, the worst thing that server could say would be like, I don't know, or I don't know what's in the dish. That server needs to know what's in the dish so they can make the good recommendation. Say, well, how about this or this or this? And I've tried all three of them. You know, these are all fabulous dishes. This is savory, a little bit more savory. This is a little on the sweeter side of things, and this has a nice cream base that's with it. So when you look at that, it really starts, and we're going to talk a lot about this, reverse engineering the process, reverse engineering the experience. It really starts with the training and the knowledge of the menu and what is really good for what would be great for the homeowner that's there. The better trained that your service staff is, the better experience that your homeowner or your guest is going to have at your particular restaurant. One of the things that we talk about. Oh, let me go back up here. Here we go. Give me a second. So we got Nick who's going to give us a talk about upselling. We have a couple of little short videos that we're including in on the webinar, so you can kind of get an idea of. And this is Nick runs one of our properties, and so you'll see kind of what he looks for and how he goes about making his restaurant to be more successful. Oops, let me go back. Here we go. All right.
So when attempting to upsell, the easiest way to perform is by giving the customer a sense of value for that upsell. Don't simply offer them an item just to offer it. Offer them the experience of that item. If you're adding a protein to a salad, the customer is getting the value of protein added, but also the business is getting the value of the higher margin or the higher plate cost. That only transfers to the customer by the experience value. The business is the one that truly sees the profit margin. When you're also dealing with upselling, the easiest way to influence your customer is by ensuring that your wait staff or your bartenders are as knowledgeable and well-versed in your menu items as possible.
So as an experienced server, what I make sure of is that I can answer any question that my table may have. So when I suggest something, I can answer any information about that item that I need to. You also just do need to be suggestive. You can suggest drinks, appetizers, soups and salads when they order their entrees. Always suggest a dessert. I suggest just bringing the dessert menu to the table because once they see it, they're more likely to get it rather than just asking if they want dessert. And something else is how you word what you're saying to your tables. You don't ask them, may I get you something to drink? You say, what can I get you to drink? They are having it. You just need to know what to get them. And you can do the same with dessert.
If your table inquires about a glass of wine, for example, alcohol is one of the easiest things you can upsell. If they inquire about a house Cabernet, which you can normally sell for $7, a knowledgeable server and an experienced server can instead offer them maybe a $10 Cabernet, or if they really want to go above and beyond, offer them perhaps the $45 or $50 bottle, in which case you just took a $7 sale to a $45 sale, increasing the guest experience with the bottle service and the restaurant's profit margins with the higher ticket items.
Another simple thing for upselling liquor is when someone says, I'll have a vodka soda, just ask them if they have a vodka preference. Pretty much no one prefers real liquor, so you're going to sell more of that.
And that's upselling.
So some really, really good tips that are there. We have one of our chefs that runs one of our hospitality properties, and he's great. He's great. He's outstanding chef. On top of it, he's a very good food and beverage director for us, and he does a wonderful job for us. And he always gets with his training. He gets with his staff, and he introduces them what it's called the Sullivan nod, where when the server goes up to the table and they start to make a suggestion, whether it's an appetizer, and as they're suggesting and making them the suggestion of whether it's a drink or a cocktail or an appetizer, they're giving them the nod, and then all of a sudden you'll start to see the guest right there in front of you start to nod as well, and more often than not, they'll actually go ahead and get something with you. So, and again, all we're trying to do is add value, because really what you want is you want to be able to showcase your restaurant, showcase your food and beverage operation. And if you feel as if that there's certain dishes that are just off of the chain great, and you want them to really kind of talk really positively about the food that they had at your property, obviously you want to steer them in the dishes that you think that are obviously the taste the best. And so when we get to taste and we get into a successful operation, bar none, you can give great service. You can be the most friendliest person in the world. If the food is terrible, it doesn't matter. You won't win over your community. The first and foremost, what has to happen is that your food has to be spectacular. It has to be good. There's no, that's a non-starter. The food that comes out of your kitchen has to be fantastic, and it has to have a story behind it. So when you look at all of these dishes that are here on our slide that's here, they all have a little bit of a story within our restaurants. So if you go down in the lower right-hand corner, that's house-made gnocchi, where one of our pastry chefs who comes in first thing in the morning to make all of the desserts, she actually makes all of the pasta, the house-made pasta, and she rolls the gnocchis and cuts them and makes those. Those are absolutely spectacular and it's with a sausage ragu, sausage and pork ragu that's there. And our chef works with a local pig farmer, and he goes and unfortunately he goes and he selects the pig that he's going to have in our restaurants. And so there's a story that's there, and it's what, that dish is absolutely spectacular. It is something that we sell a ton of that's there. The profit margin is through the roof, but most importantly, our homeowners that order it, they absolutely love it. The cheesecake is a limoncello house-made cheesecake. In fact, it won one of our executive chefs his job with the blueberry puree that's over on the top. And so he has that graham custard crust that's there with the limoncello, and he makes those first thing in the morning. And when you walk into that facility, you can smell it. It's just absolutely spectacular. So those, people eat with their eyes, even in to-go boxes right now. You got the Basil Hayden pork chop that's there. Again, it has a Basil Hayden glaze over top of the pork chop, and another home run. So each one of those, when you put that in front of there, you want the oh my gosh, that looks fantastic. Or the pan-seared scallops with the local farmed heirloom tomatoes that are there. So again, it's something local to the community. It's something that from a vendor standpoint that we're embracing our local communities that are there. And then there's a story that can be told at the table as people are ordering their food. But unequivocally, it has to be consistent, and it has to be consistently really good for your food operations to be able to be successful, because you have to think about that. If let's say you have 1,000 homes or 500 homes that are there, that you have to get those homeowners to rave about the food that's at your place. You know, you want them to have to go on a walk with one of their neighbors and to talk about the meal that they had at the restaurant the other night. Now, it also comes down to just really running the business. And what are some of the things that we do? What are some of the things at OneSource that we do to be able to effectively run that business? So we, all of our culinary team, all of our managers are all Six Sigma and Lean management trained. They all receive their white belt, as we call it, and they become certified in Six Sigma and Lean management. And the reason why that is because it just lends itself to hospitality. Lean management is about removing all of the waste in something. And when we say waste, it could be waste. There's 8 different types of waste that are out there. It's called Tim T. Wood, and it could be talent, it could be motion, it could be inventory, it could be overproducing. There's so many different variations of the various waste. And once you remove that waste, you're really looking at the experience through the eyes of the customer. And when you do that, you're trying to say, okay, well, you have all of these resources. How can I repurpose those resources so it's more impactful and it's great? It's more impactful for the customer experience. That's lean management all in a nutshell. It's not just about cut and cut and cut and cut, and it's far from that. It's being able to make sure that you're using your existing resources that you have to the greatest potential to be able to increase that customer experience to the fullest ability. And then Six Sigma is taking those processes and making sure that there's no variation within the process. And so how many times you've gone to a restaurant and you say, you know, I want my cheeseburger medium rare, and it comes back and it's medium or medium well. That's a Six Sigma problem. Okay, that tells us that the process is not clearly defined and is buttoned up enough to where you've allowed some variation of the quality of the food that's coming out of the kitchen that's there. So it really doesn't matter if it's a $12 an hour cook that's cooking your meal, or it's the executive chef that's cooking the meal. They actually should be the exact same, and you want them to be the exact same coming out of the kitchen. So it doesn't. So you're training on the process, not the actual individual. And then finally, the flow. It's the flow again. We've talked about reverse engineering the experience. The flow is all the way from the vendor selection to literally putting the check in front of the guest to pay at the end of the night. And what happens from selecting the vendor, selecting the food, to storing the food, to prepping the food, to training the team, to executing the actual dinner, to the service staff, to the actual and plate presentation, to all the way to the customer. And that it's all of that flow that's there. So when we talk about optimizing operations, it's really pretty precise. And there's lots of things that go into a lot of moving parts. You know, there's a lot of moving parts to, believe it or not, to put a steak in front of somebody and make sure that steak that's put in front of somebody is cooked at the right temperature and the right gauge at the right time and at the right quality that's there. So 5S. This again is another lean tournament, another lean term that's out there, and it starts with sort, making sure that obviously that everything is sorted in the right area. When we look at 5S's, there's so many things that are associated with this. When we say sort and set in order, when we've walked into kitchens and you look and you say, you know, is the operation, is it effective and is it efficient? If all of a sudden as you walk in and you have servers that are moving all over the place within the kitchen, they're going over here to get the bread, they're going over here to get the butter, they're going over here to grab olive oil, they're going over here to grab crushed black pepper. When you look at it and then you look behind the line and you see the staff, the culinary team moving behind the line all over the place, then you know that you have a problem. You know that your menu is not balanced appropriately. You know that the equipment is not set in the right order. And consequently, that's going to show up in the variances within the quality that's coming out. And so there's times where we've come in and we've pulled equipment out and then put equipment back in a different manner, and our service and quality has increased just by redesigning or reconfiguring the existing kitchen that's there. So those are things. This day and age, shine is the third thing. And I will tell you this, our health code standards have absolutely gone through the roof. And you know, when you look at, you go into our restaurants, into our clubhouses, you have a much greater chance of catching COVID if you go to the grocery store than you do with our restaurants, because the amount of health and safety protocols that the restaurant industry has been adopted to be able to stay in business that's there. And then ultimately, the standardization is making sure that things are standard. And when I say that is like, you know, when we say standard is, you know, when a culinary team comes in and they're setting up, they're prepping their stations, their mise en place for that night's service, do they know what does excellent look like? Is there pictures of what their station should look like? Do they know how much, what's their inventory should be as far as how many things are chopped up, whether it's carrots or, you know, cucumbers or peppers or how much cheese that they should have within their area. So there's so many things, how many sauces that are there. And what does that look like? There should be a standardization. There should be a standardization as far as their prep list, so they can prep for the necessary ingredients. And so when service starts, they're fully ready to go. And then ultimately the sustain component of things. That sustain is making sure that the equipment is running correctly, making sure that your team is properly trained, so that you can build on each service that you have. As you have win upon win upon win, you want to build upon all of those victories and look at the things that you've done really well, so you can continually improve and get better at the craft that you have. So 5S, again, it's a lean terminology that's there, and it's helped you. You know, it helps us really kind of put things in order of really within food. So there is not someone who is successful in their business if they don't know it inside and out. And food is no different. Food is no different than any of that. First, your team has to know what their roles are. Okay, they got to know who the key stakeholders are. If I'm a server and I'm just coming in, I got to know, okay, who's my culinary team, who's on the saute side of things, who's on the grill side of things, who's my executive chef, who's my bartender, bar manager, who's my front of the house manager. I need to be introduced to all of them. And then ultimately, I need to know, what am I responsible for? Okay, hopefully you're just not thrown into the fire with and trying to fend for yourself. That there's training that's there for us. We use a twofold approach. We have an online training platform that goes over all of our service standards and service mechanics and different things that we look for within our service organization. And then we have really the hands-on training checklist, where you're training with our managers, or our lead manager or lead servers, so that they know what their responsibilities are and how to be successful within that role. And then the second thing is you know, there's endless training on menus, wine lists, cocktails. All, you know, it's so important that the team is fully knowledgeable on everything that's happening in the restaurant itself. The menus, the cocktails, what are some great Pinot Noirs, what are some great Cabernet Sauvignon. You can go all the way down and through, so that it's very important that your team knows your business inside and out. That's there, because the more knowledgeable that they are, the better sales that you will have, and the sales is a byproduct of your being able to service your homeowner that much better, and those things are really important. The second part of this is, do they have the material and equipment for them to be successful? And what we mean by that is, do they know, first and foremost, do they have, the nuts and bolts? Do they know where to check in and clock in? And do they know, do they have their uniform? Do they have their name tag? Do they know where the menus are? Things of that matter. And then the second part of that is really, do they have this, do they have the software? Meaning, do they fully understand the processes? Do they fully understand maybe the system on, can they go to the point of sale, add modifiers, send it to the right portion part of the line so that it shows up correctly in the back of the house? And then the third thing is, are they, from a human standpoint, do they have the materials to be successful? Say if I'm a manager and I have one server per 50 guests, and it's a full service restaurant. Well, that's going to be really challenging. You're going to get service complaints that night. And so, do you have enough the human capital that's associated with it? So these are all of the things that you have to know about your business, so that you can be setting yourself up for success prior to a guest or a homeowner ever walking into your restaurant on a given time. All right, we're going to listen to Ethan here. Let me get this thing, and Ethan will kind of walk us through. Oh, there we go. This is a short one.
I put myself or the executive chef on the line with our strongest cooks, and then the cooks that aren't as strong, either I or the executive chef will be in the back doing prep, getting ourselves set for events, prep day in advance, maybe 2 days in advance for events. That way they're sure it's done, and we're moving up maybe an hour in advance for the event, so the food stays fresh.
All right, some good words from Ethan. He helps us out, and him and his team do a really wonderful job. They do a wonderful job at one of our OneSource properties, and that particular property is very, very busy in regards to banquets and events. We'll talk a little bit about that and how that can be such a positive impact for the community. All right, nuts and bolts back of the house. These are things that we use. Your food costs at the end of the month should never surprise you. Again, you reverse engineer where do you want to hit your food costs to be prior to a menu actually going into implementation with it. And we do that by making sure that the recipes are all completely buttoned up, they're documented, they're accounted for. We know how much each ingredient is going to cost in regards to the recipe. We place it into our recipe cost calculator that's there, and then we actually put in the preparation notes that are there. We have a binder that's with each station, and so our culinary teams know that. And actually, this one doesn't have it, but we'll have a picture of what the dish looks like, so again, you go back to, what does excellent look like? Well, it looks like this. It looks like this Basil Hayden pork chop. That's excellent. It looks like this house-made gnocchi. That's excellent. And then we back into those. We have all of those hard prices because we have already gone and selected our vendors, and we've been able to look up those prices. and then we add that in there, and we put in our food costs, and then we say, okay, what type of food costs do we want to run? Do we want to run 30%, 35%, 36%, 22%, 28%? We actually have some of our places are in the 20s because they're concessions. They're high, turn and burn type of operations, hospitality operations. In most of our restaurants, we're running, the kind of the full service. Depends. It's in that 35, 36%, which is great because then you can start to figure out, and we'll talk a little bit about the labor plan that goes along with it, but how much prep is required for that particular dish. Generally speaking, the more prep that you have prior to, the more house-made things that you're trying to implement in your restaurant, the lower your food costs are going to be. Your labor may go up, but your food costs may decline. Is everything included in there? The rolls and the butter? What's the balance of the menu? If all of a sudden you have a menu where you have, let's say you have 20 items on that particular menu, and of the 20, 16 are on the saute side and 4 are on the grill side. Well, you know what? Your chef your sous that's on the saute side of the station is getting killed every single night versus the grill. So you have to balance all of that out. These are all decisions that go into your head prior to you placing a menu in front of somebody that's there. The cooking times per dishes that are all there. Again, it's very systematically reverse engineered so that when you go out with a menu that it's going to be, let's say your overall food cost is going to be 32, 33%. That's with that. Going into that month that you can bank on that. Then you can bank onto the labor side of things. And then you can start to figure out how to make your business to be profitable for your HOA. So then it comes into, what do I need to do? What does my menu look like? What stations do I theoretically have to fill? How much front of the house? What's my service standards that I have in the front? Is it 20? Is it one server per 20? Is it one server per 30, 40, 50? If it's one per 50, I'm hoping it's fast casual. That's there. What does the kitchen look like? So to make sure that your labor is set up appropriately. So whatever you have on your food costs, and then you lump in your labor, there's, by and large, you're going to have at least 2/3 of all of your costs between those two big buckets that are there. And then you throw in all of the, you got to pay for the lights, you got to pay the mortgage, you got to pay the insurance, you got to pay the tax man. And then, then you got to, pay for the linens and things along, all of that extra cleaning supplies that are on top of that. So really, this recipe calendar that we use is a critical part to make sure that we have a firm grip and grasp of what are the costs associated with being able to run an effective operation that's there. The next part of this, these are two one source properties that really do an outstanding job in weddings. Actually, both of these properties in their respective states have won Best of Weddings. The one that's up there on the top was in a hyper competitive market in the DC market and won Best of Wedding Venue in Washington, DC. And it's a one source property that's there. So when you're talking weddings and events, this is how is this relevant to a homeowners? Okay, well, the one that's in the top right hand corner pre-COVID did close to $1.3 million, $1.4 million in weddings and events. That operation, that portion of the operation, literally just absolutely made the food and beverage operation profitable, for one. Two, it allows us to reduce the price in the restaurant for how much that we're charging, say for a steak, for a burger, for a club sandwich, for chicken piccata, something along those lines, because the banquets were they did so well. Even to the point where, from a homeowners, let's say you're sitting on finance committee or you're sitting on the board, if your food and beverage operation is effective, like this particular place helped fund build a $2 million fitness building for the community. So if you're sitting there with a long-term capital wish plan, and we call it capital wish plan, and you're not able to fund it, and maybe your food and beverage operation is bringing you down, something is wrong with there. Okay, you have to get to the point where you can at least break even and make some. And these two particular properties, One Source properties, the banquet side really drives a good part of the business. And so when you look at that as a whole, you got to say couple of factors is, one, should you get into this side of the business? It is probably more profitable than anything. But if you get into this side of the business, you have to make sure that you go all in. And what we know is that when you do someone's weddings, when you're doing weddings, you have a moral obligation to make sure that you do it right. There is no margin for error. You cannot be the club or the HOA that ruins someone's special one day. Hopefully it's only once. Ruins somebody's special day. So when we go in with weddings, we do have an event coordinator. We do have an event salesperson. We do have a banquet manager. They are really controlling, and they're doing all, and maybe we have 2 sous chefs, and one's the banquet chef that's there. In the end, if you're cooking for 300 people, you want to know that you're cooking the right amount for 300 people. For one, that's a talent that's there. It's a calculation that we use. And so this part of your business can be very successful, but you have to make the investment to make it successful. What does that org chart look like to be able to make it successful? And generally speaking, it is about a 3-year ramp up for us to really start to move and generate a significant profit for our properties over that time frame. Because weddings are always 1 year in advance. Well, in COVID, they're 2 years in advance, but weddings for the most part are always 1 year in advance. Event and big banquets and things like that are generally a little bit long-term booked out. So you need a little more runway to make sure that everything's kind of coming through to the fruition with things. The second part is events for the community. This is where you have to make it fun. Remember when we were talking about you have different niches? This is how you hit those, you scratch those itches and you hit the different niches. We do a wine and prime. This is at one of our properties. It's a blowout event. Great prime rib, live music, wine tasting, all incorporated into it. It's a wonderful night for the community that's there. We've done dinner theaters. We've done family nights. You have to be able to promote them, create the demand for them, make it easy for the guests to sign up, ask your members and your homeowners to join, to bring friends that's there. Again, these are all ways in which you can hit your different niches, whether it's Greek night or Mongolian food night or Italian night. There's so many different things that you can do. Lobster tails and Alaskan king crab. So there's any time that you're incorporating food and you add the alcohol component that's into it, the mix that's in it. These are events that your team has to generate to continually generate the buzz at your property. And the way that you go through that, obviously, our marketing team does a wonderful job when it comes to promoting all of these different things. And everything on social media is great pictures are food. Let's be honest. When you look at some of those food pictures that are out there on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that, I would much prefer to look at some sort of food post than some sort of political post that's going to make me angry with it. So again, you use social media to be able to really to attract everyone. So when we're going to stay a little bit right here. You need ravens. You need mavens that are in your community, and those repeat customers. You really have to make sure that your team is focusing on homeowner retention, encouraging repeat customers. Again, it goes back to the education, informing them of the upcoming events, because that repeat customer is always they're going to spend more. They're easier to sell to. They cost less than acquiring a new customer. They promote your business if you're doing it really well. So these are all key fundamental pillars that we really are trying to, every person that comes in there, we want to see them at least another 2 times within that particular month. And if we can get to that point, then all of a sudden we know that we're starting to change their behavioral patterns, and we want our restaurants to be top of mind, think first, and to that behavior where they think of us first before they think of going outside of the gates of our communities that are there. Now, we are zealots when it comes to measuring things. We measure everything as far as the experience, and you'll see all of our general managers and our managers. We kind of go on these things called OKRs, objectives and key results, and we try to drive those key results as much as possible. And all of our teams are well aware of. We're measuring ticket times. At lunch, what's your average ticket time? Is it 12 minutes? Is it 10 minutes? Is it 9.5 minutes? At dinner, what's your ticket time? Is it 15 minutes? Is it 16 minutes? Is it 15.5? How did we do? Did we win the night that night? We're measuring service quality. We're measuring food quality. And we're measuring those experiences through the homeowners association. And we're measuring those guests as they come into our restaurant. Now, the thing is we always say that you measure what you treasure, or you treasure what you measure what you treasure. But the reality is if you measure, it's going to improve. But if you measure and report on it, it's going to improve exponentially. And so with our teams, we are always reporting on what we're doing, on how well that we're doing, so we can congratulate the wins, but again, take that lean approach and continually improve through our service and through our quality. And lots of times there's things that we've measured, whether it's on comment cards, where things have happened where maybe we have stumbled, but we've learned from those, and then so that we haven't continually made that same mistake, and then improved at the end. We've improved on the type of food that we're serving, as well as improved on the type of service that we're delivering on as well. So unequivocally, it's so important for you to measure your performance on a day-to-day basis to make sure that your teams are fully aware of what does excellent look like, and how are you going to go about getting there with that. So menu changes, I'll tell you, you definitely want to try to promote those menu changes. You do want to do some seasonal things. We actually had one of our executive chefs this past fall. We went and shot a video of him making butternut squash raviolis. My gosh, if after you watch that video, if you didn't want butternut squash ravioli, something with a brown butter sauce, it looked fabulous, and it makes your mouth water. It makes my mouth water right now. Kind of like that Food Channel, best thing I ever ate, and that would be right up there. But that was a very seasonal idea, and over the next several weeks, we sold the heck out of those butternut squash. We took that video, that we threw it out into the community, and you know what? That was one thing that really drove sales. So menu changes are something that you can do seasonally and send them out, whether it's craft cocktails or different dishes, whether it's fall or or winter dishes. Winter right now, we are January. If you're not in one of your restaurants, if you're not doing um, some sort of stew that's there, or pot roast, especially in the elderly community, a pot roast. I mean, that just brings back memories for many of our homeowners that are there. So lots of things that you can look at on a seasonal side to get them to come back and try some new dishes for you. So this is one of our places that we manage, One Source. Uh, we can't wait till we get back to this, where you look at that picture. There's nobody's got a mask, and they're shoulder to shoulder, and we're really looking forward to that. Getting back into that event side, and hopefully we're going to see that as the summer starts to roll into the summer, and the vaccine is distributed throughout the United States. One other thing, those drinks that are down, if you're not doing uh, some sort of the classic cocktails revisited. I mean, old fashions, Negronis, martinis. There's so many. That is such a big trend right now. If you're not doing something like that, then you're missing out on some alcohol sales that are there, because that is a big rave right there. And actually, how Mara said it, you want to upsell those and all and offer. Do you want Grey Goose with one of the, or an Absolute Rita that's there. So lots of things that you can think about to be able to offer to your community. But we talked a lot about front of house, back of the house, the basis of the back of the house operation, which is the foundation, and then ultimately building up through there. Cost control with the recipe cards that are there, the labor plan, how that's a percentage of your revenue that's associated with it, banquets and events, homeowner usage, trying to drive greater homeowner usage into the restaurant so that they can see your hospitality operation really as the showcase for the community. It's really the place where everybody comes in and enjoys their time, being able to spend time with their fellow neighbors that are there. We did have a couple of questions that were out there. One is actually one of the webinars, and we'll talk a little bit about this. Is how do you make your food and beverage operation profitable? Lots of moving parts. It goes back to knowing your business, which lever that you can pull to be able to move in the right direction, whether it's on the revenue or it's on the expense side of things. And so, but actually we're going to do a whole webinar class on making your club operations profitable for your homeowners association. But before we go, if there's something that you don't like at your place that you want maybe an objective third party to take a look at, we would be happy to do that. Whether it's many a times we get contacted because maybe the food that's coming out of the kitchen's not very good, or maybe it's just inconsistent. Maybe the financial performance of the operation is not at the level where it needs to be for the club. Or the last part is maybe that the team that's there is not playing really nice in the sandbox together. And when that happens, obviously the other two books on that shelf are going to fall off as well, the financial performance as well as the products and the services that are being delivered. And so with One Source, we do cover it all. We cover how the community and the club come together. And it's not two separate management companies where the left hand and the right hand don't know what's going on, or they're both pointing at each other and saying, "Oh, well, that's an HOA problem. Well, that's a club problem." That doesn't happen with One Source. We're all in the same boat. We're all rowing the oars in the same direction for the best use of the community as a whole. So, if you would like for us to talk with us and see what we might be able to help with your community, we would be happy to do that going forward. We do have before we do leave, we do have several other webinars over the next 5 Fridays or 4 Fridays, and we're going to continue this throughout 2021. Next week, we're going to talk about the people that are there on a day-to-day basis, and how they are driving your business, driving the HOA business, and driving the club business. And they really have, that is an integral part of the success of your homeowners association. That's there. The other part is, this is something that's kind of an interesting topic to us because we see it all the time. We deal with this all the time. We have extensive knowledge and background on how to be able to coach HOAs to be able to do this. Should your HOA buy your club? We see many times, time and time again, where a club goes out of business, and unfortunately the homeowners association doesn't have the ownership of the club itself, and now they have just this overgrown golf course that's in their backyard that is absolutely plummeting their home value. So should your HOA buy your club? If they have the opportunity to, how do you go about doing that? So we're going to give you good solutions and tips on how to be able to do that. And then the last thing is, like I said earlier, is how to make your club profitable. There's so many different variables to be able to make your club profitable in conjunction with your HOA, and so that the two can be in harmony with each other. So again, if you would like to talk to me and give me a call, this is our number to our offices, 540-464-4654, or you can shoot me an email at sean.taylor@uptoparmanagement.com, and I'd be happy to talk to you with what we can do on the HOA side. We have branches throughout the country. We have great branches throughout the country, up and down the East Coast, all over the country. And then what can we do on the hospitality side? So hopefully you picked up a nugget or two that you can bring back to your HOA, or at least maybe got you thinking about, wow, why isn't my food and beverage operation like the way that he described it? I really want to go ahead and talk to him. Be happy to talk to you, and look forward to seeing you in the upcoming webinars. And if I don't see you in the upcoming webinars, hopefully we'll talk over the phone. So thanks, and I appreciate your time, and thanks for being with us here at OneSource.